It's April 7th, 2003. We're at the Superdome in New Orleans for the NCAA men's basketball final. Kansas has the ball, down 3 points to Syracuse with just a few seconds remaining. One Jayhawks bucket could force overtime. One stop and Cuse can lock up a national championship. Let's meet the people who made this moment possible and whose legacies it will help define. Let's rewind. One of two coaches in this building is going to notch a career first. Roy Williams is a North Carolina guy, but Kansas gave him his first head coaching job 15 years ago. Jim Boeheim is a Syracuse guy and always has been. His alma mater gave him his first and only head coaching role back in 1976. These guys have both been around, and they have something else in common. Neither has a championship. Both have come close, and both have unpleasant memories in this very building. Williams took over for Larry Brown and inherited his recruiting sanctions immediately after Kansas won its second championship in 1988. After a probation period, Williams had the Jayhawks back in the 1991 final, but Kansas fell to the ascendant Duke Blue Devils. Rex Walters led Kansas deep into 1993's March Madness, but Williams' old, vengeful pals at North Carolina ensured the Jayhawks wouldn't make it out of the Final Four. That defeat happened right here in New Orleans, and it probably still stings, but I think Coach Boeheim has Williams beat when it comes to sour Superdome memories. In the late 80s, Syracuse surrounded star big guy Ronnie Cycli with some impressive underclassmen who rode a surprisingly hot regular season start into a 2 seed in the 1987 NCAA tournament. They marched through the early rounds. They upset UNC in the Elite Eight back when Roy Williams was still an assistant there. And then Cuse crushed Providence in the Final Four to reach their first ever NCAA final against Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers, a game they kept close throughout. In this same venue 16 years ago, Cuse held a 1-point lead in the final seconds, needing just one stop to secure their first title. They didn't get it. Keith Smart's legendary baseline leaner broke Orange hearts.
And the Hoosiers with 3 seconds. Go ahead.
Boeheim's team hasn't come that close since. They made another final in '96, but didn't put up much of a fight against Rick Pitino's excellent Kentucky squad. So these fellas have combined to coach over 70 NCAA tourney victories, with nary a national championship between them. One of them is about to finally lose his asterisk on this list of winningest tournament coaches. So what did the two coaches do this time around to build title-worthy teams? Well, Roy built these Jayhawks slowly but surely, beginning with the '99 recruiting class. Drew Gooden, who has since departed for the NBA, and these two guys, both sons of coaches, both named Misters Basketball of Iowa in high school, Kirk Hinrich and Nick Collison. The killer guard and brilliant big man stuck around. Over 4 seasons, Hinrich and Collison have formed a cohesive, creative two-man game, aided most recently by a fleet of productive underclassmen. Bruising forward Wayne Simeon, pure point guard Aaron Miles, and clutch finisher Keith Langford helped Kansas reach the Final Four last season. And now they've helped their NBA-bound senior tandem reach their first tournament final, obliterating Dwayne Wade and Marquette 2 days ago. And almost none of those guys are on the floor right now. Hinrich is here with the ball, making this critical play despite an ankle injury, but his options are unusual, missing several of the big names I just listed. Wayne Simeon had shoulder surgery just a few days ago, so that explains that. Langford and Collison lead the Jayhawks in scoring tonight. They have 19 points apiece, but they're both on the bench. Collison picked up his disqualifying 5th foul just a few game seconds ago. He's been important tonight for good reasons and bad ones we'll get into, but he won't factor into this final moment. Same goes for Langford, who fouled out a while back. He just couldn't avoid contact against one of the toughest defensive assignments, ever. This guy represents Syracuse's distinct path to the final. Cuse did not build gradually to get here. They came out of nowhere. The Orange started this season unranked. People didn't know yet that a core of underclassmen was ready to beat the best. Cuse's deadliest scorers are both freshmen. One is Jerry McNamara. The so-called mayor of Scranton, Pennsylvania, has already made a strong campaign for the same title in Syracuse, New York. His freshman season included some of the most impressive shooting numbers in school history. McNamara had a big clutch moment in the regular season, and he's already contributed to this March's madness, completing Syracuse's big second-round comeback against Oklahoma State with a late scoring outburst after he got his forehead cut open. That is not going to be his signature performance, though. Not after tonight. McNamara's 6 three-pointers built a big Orange lead at halftime. Yes, 6. This last one tied the Syracuse season high for threes, but it was still the first half. On any other team, a freshman doing this kind of stuff all season long and here in the final would be the story. But McNamara has a special freshman teammate. That is Carmelo Anthony. For this 18-year-old, tonight's final punctuates one of the greatest freshman seasons in the history of college basketball. Melo came up in Baltimore and finished high school at Oak Hill Academy, where he firmly established himself as an elite prospect, a powerful and ridiculously smooth forward with all the size and skill an NBA team would want. But unlike class of '02 star Amari Stoudemire, and unlike his friend and rival in this '03 class, LeBron James, Anthony passed on the opportunity to become an NBA lottery pick straight out of high school. Carmelo's mother, Mary, really wanted him to go to college, and he obviously had plenty of schools waving scholarships in his face. He considered staying near home at Maryland or Virginia, or playing for Jay Wright at Villanova. He imagined joining the UNC or Georgia Tech recruiting classes, already stacked with NBA caliber talent. But on those teams, Melo worried about competing for minutes as a newcomer, deadening his pre-draft hype. Meanwhile, Jim Boeheim's Syracuse roster was losing its high-scoring small forward, Preston Shumpert. Anthony saw an opportunity to fill that vacuum and immediately become the guy. He hoped to dominate a single college season, to even more clearly prove his excellence to NBA teams. And so he has. Anthony's first ever college game was against a good opponent, Memphis, in an intimidating setting, Madison Square Garden. Melo looked right at home, registering a debut double-double of 27 points and 11 boards. Syracuse lost that night at MSG, but rattled off 11 straight wins thereafter, led back into the top 25 by Melo's constant stream of efficient, high-volume scoring. He is the reason Cuse kept climbing from unranked all the way to 13th in the nation, a surprise 3 seed in this tournament, and, of course, all the way to this final. To date, Melo's 33-point, 14-rebound outing to knock off TJ Ford in Texas in the semifinal marked the most points ever scored by a freshman in the Final Four. He has been everything to Cuse these last few days, a double-double machine and a consistent threat from outside. College defenders, including Keith Langford, can't stop this guy. Kansas has been forced to send help tonight, and Melo consistently read the floor to find the open man, like this uncontested 3. And like McNamara, Anthony had his jump shot going early. He drilled this deep, well-guarded one to secure a double-digit halftime lead for the Orange. Which might leave you wondering, what happened? Why is this score so close? I believe there are 2 answers. The first is uneven shooting from the field. You know how McNamara had an incredible 6 threes in the first half? He's hit 0 in a scoreless second half. Anthony, meanwhile, appeared to tweak a pre-existing back injury when he took this tumble. He winced his way into halftime. Melo came out of the locker room partly mummified and has been grabbing at his back ever since. Probably related? Melo is scoreless over the last 13 minutes. Just a tremendous dip in offense for Syracuse. Kansas hasn't necessarily improved in the second half, they've just been steady. Before Collison fouled out, he and Heinrich connected for an unusual big to small finish, just brilliant ESP on the inbound play. A more traditional Kirk to Nick alley-oop kept the margin at 5. And Kansas also got a boost off the bench from Mike Lee. Lee is the guy who took over the Melo assignment with Langford in foul trouble, and he's made some plays on defense. He broke up an entry pass to create a fast break. He cut off the baseline to turn the ball over for more transition offense. And here he played some awesome on-ball D to funnel Melo toward a charge. Lee is the guy who kicked off Kansas's comeback with this quick 3 fresh off the bench. He's the guy who finished on the break to make it a 1-possession game a minute ago. And hey, would you look at that? Mike Lee is shaping up to be the guy who takes this critical shot. Heinrich is gonna pass here. Maybe because of his twisted ankle, maybe because he just rimmed out a similar look mere seconds ago. That's fine for Kansas though, because Lee is their most accurate outside shooter. He hit half his threes this season, albeit in a small sample. So yeah, regular old shooting will decide this game. Can Syracuse's blazing first half production survive this comeback of timely buckets from Kansas? But there is a second, more dramatic explanation for this game's outcome, one way or the other, and the man frantically closing on Mike Lee has something to do with it. Whomever loses this game is going to hear a lot about free throws. For Kansas, it is a general game-long disaster. They are a mediocre foul shooting team to begin with, but tonight has been gruesome. 12 of 30 from the line. That is considerably worse than they've shot on contested field goals. That includes Collison, who's usually good for at least a 60% clip, missing 6 straight free throws in this second half. Ouch, 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 ouch. For Syracuse, the free throw problem is more acute, more recent, and more narratively terrifying. Their problems at the stripe happened in the last minute. Melo missed the front end of a 1-and-1. Queth missed one a few seconds later. Needed these. And even after that, this intentional slapfest on Hakeem Warwick granted the lanky sophomore a chance to give Syracuse some crucial breathing room with 13 seconds left. He just needed to make one free throw to create a 2-possession margin. If you remembered 1987, your mind flashed to one thing. Before Indiana broke Syracuse hearts and stifled Jim Boeheim's best chance at a title, the Orange led by 1 point under the 30-second mark with an opportunity to pad that lead at the foul line. After Bobby Knight iced him with a timeout, freshman Derek Coleman badly short-armed the first of the 1-and-1. That is why Keith Smart only needed those 2 points to win it all for Indiana. Well, tonight, Warwick found himself in a similar and even more favorable spot. 2 guaranteed attempts to push this lead past 3. All right, that's it. Number 1, clink. Number 2, clink. Not that Warwick needs any extra motivation to defend Mike Lee's shot at a tie here, but this closeout carries some extra weight since his blunder, the razor's edge of a prolonged Cuse collapse, made it possible. Can Hakeem Warwick deter disaster and finally get Jim Boeheim his title? Or will bench hero Mike Lee complete the comeback and give Roy Williams' Jayhawks a chance to become champs in overtime? Welcome to a moment in history.
Heinrich with 4 seconds, gives it up corner, Lee shot blocked. They have less than a second to go.
But wait, Hakeem, we need you one more time. All right, well done.
Too long, and Syracuse is your national champion.
Thank you so much for watching Rewinder. If you want to see more about some great March Madness moments, click on one of these things.